Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well today. In this video, we're looking at Star Citizen's upcoming combat ship, the Starlancer TAC, and talking about some even more leaked ships we just got last night. Now, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content, feel free to subscribe. I have channel memberships open if you'd like to go the extra mile, and I'll have a link in the description to the community Discord. I would love to have you there. Besides that, let's get talking about Star Citizen. Now, before we get into some of the leak news, which has some really cool info, let's look at the Starlancer TAC and kind of just do a little bit of a deep dive here. Now, if you missed the March monthly report, the Starlancer TAC is in its final release stages. This has also been backed up by the 4.1.1 leaks that confirm that this ship will debut at Invictus launch week. So, to start it off a little bit, let's discuss the type of role that the Starlancer TAC will have in the verse. Based off the description, it states that this is a patrol ship, but I could absolutely see this ship also acting as a dropship or a gunship as well, given some of its functionality. So let's take a look at some of the weaponry offered by the TAC, and then we'll go over some of its other possible functionalities. Looking at the pilot weapons, first we know that they'll have access to two sets of dual size 4 weapons, and in my opinion, that is pretty solid weaponry for just the pilot. Now, the other turrets are really where the magic is at when it comes to this ship's defense. As we can see here, there are two manned dual size 5 turrets. Not only is that some decent firepower, but it also just looks really badass sitting on the side of the ship. For the other two remote turrets, they are rocking dual size 4 weaponry that are placed on top of the ship. These should have a very clear view of what is flying above with very few obstructions like some other ships have. Now, outside of the turrets on the exterior of the ship, there are actually two more that sit next to the drop seats. Similar to other drop ships like the Cutlass or the Valkyrie, the TAC has two ballistic weapons that players can use when dropping off ground forces. Now, these turrets typically aren't very effective against other vehicles, but they can certainly offer some good coverage against any other ground forces during a hot drop. Looking at the missile side of things, we also have 16 size 3 missiles on board. Nothing major or not the coolest part of the ship, but it's certainly going to be helpful during combat. Now, when we look at the weaponry of the ship, we also have to talk about one of the coolest aspects of it, and that is the ability to hold and deploy a Misk Fury. This snub fighter is incredibly agile and could certainly be a nice addition to the overall firepower of this ship. And even if you weren't in combat, this ship could certainly act as a way of scouting an area out before moving in. Regardless of how you use it, though, having a Fury hangar is a really, really cool part of the ship, and I'm also excited to see what else other people manage to fit in there as well. Now, looking at some of the other functionalities of the ship, we have to mention the onboard medical facility that features two Tier 3 med beds. I already know that this is one of the biggest selling points for many players, and also partly the reason why this ship might be a great all rounder when it comes to what it's capable of. Continuing off of this, there is also going to be 96 SU of cargo space, which will be easily enough room for a small ground vehicle as well. Looking at some of the lower midsection of the ship, we also have our 8 drop seats and a side opening ramp for quick deployment of ground forces. And in order to facilitate that functionality, the ship will also come with 4 VTOL thrusters. This will play a huge part for the ship whenever we get the updated flight model. A lot of ships that don't have VTOL thrusters right now that typically just float around and kind of hover in midair won't be able to do that, but ships like the TAC that do have VTOL thrusters will be capable of going up and down with basically no concern and being able to drop off players really quickly without having to worry about just stalling out and crashing into the ground. Now, moving on from some of those more unique main features of the ship, we also have, the basic functionalities such as a hab and crew area, the main entrance and exit with lockers for your gear, your engineering room, which looks very similar to the Starlancer Max, and 4 escape pods, which is a slightly odd number given the maximum crew is 7. But hey, I guess you could just play like rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the escape pods. Regardless, though, I think it is nice to have some of these more basic functionalities included alongside all these other unique ones. In my opinion, the Starlancer Max, as much as I love the exterior and just the way that ship looks and feels, it generally does have a ton of crew space and habitation space, so there isn't nearly as much functionality stored into that ship. But for the Starlancer TAC, I mean, you quite literally have a ridiculous amount of functionality in the ship. You have these manned turrets on the side, you have these drop seats, med beds, quite literally all right next to each other. Right above that, you have a Fury hangar. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's going to be the downsides of these types of ships as well, but this thing is packing a whole lot in it, and I think that is a really cool aspect of it. It might be a little bit crammed comparatively to the Starlancer Max, but I love the design of this ship, and I honestly cannot wait to see this thing in the verse, hopefully within the next month. Now, initially, I did plan on just making this video about the Starlancer TAC and all the ways you could use it and whatnot. But last night, we did actually get some leaks about some new ships. So I wanted to go over that with you and do a tiny bit of speculating and just have a little bit of fun talking about it. Now, if you do remember this at all, a few months ago or not too long ago, I think there was a leak about a ship called the Anvil Asgard. This didn't really go anywhere. I don't think there was any other leads past that. But since then, just last night, we got news about this ship, and it should be a heavy transport ship. Now, to confirm this a little bit more than the typical leak, this does have a soundbite with it as well that basically has someone at Invictus announcing the ship to the public, just describing the type of ship it is. It is a heavy transporter. The way I see that is basically just a competitor to the Drake Ironclad. Of course, we have no pictures of this. We don't have any information outside of this leak, but it does sound like it could be a really cool ship from Anvil. Now, in other leaks, we also have a leaked ground vehicle as well, that being the Greycat MTC, the Mobile Tactical Center. If you remember from last year's Citizen, there was a few ground vehicles mentioned in the next 12-month portion of the panel. Now, the one on screen currently, I believe, is a Greycat vehicle of sorts. Which one, I'm not entirely sure yet. If you remember from a few days ago, there was leaks of a Greycat Cav in the other 4.1.1 files, and then of course in this leak there is the Greycat MTC. Now, in the past, there has been, different names for vehicles sometimes to kind of just cover up what they are. But at the same time, having two vehicles named Greycat Cab and Greycat MTC makes me pretty firmly believe that they are two separate ground vehicles. Personally, I think that the one on screen is a Greycat Cav because it's just a smaller ground vehicle and maybe just like a personal transport similar to the Ursa. For a MTC, a mobile tactical center, I generally think that that would be a bigger ground vehicle just to hold more weapons and players. But at the same time, we basically know nothing about this other than its name. So this is pure speculation, just having a little bit of fun, kind of guessing what this could be. Regardless, I would love to hear your thoughts. Is the vehicle on screen, do you think that's the Grey Cat Cav or do you think that is the MTC? Now, when it comes to the last leak we have, it's not really anything big, just the Starlancer TAC being confirmed once again to becoming an Invictus. Very excited to hear that regardless, but at this point, I think it's confirmed that you will see the TAC at Invictus. Now, when it comes to all of the leak ships that we talked about over the past couple days, that being the Anvil Paladin, the Anvil Asgard, the Grey Cat MTC and Grey Cat Cav, as well as the new Guardian variant and the Starlancer TAC, I'm curious as to which one you are excited for the most. In my opinion, originally I was the most excited for the Anvil Paladin, but after hearing about the Anvil Asgard, I'm kind of swaying towards that. I love the sound of a heavy transport ship of sorts. I don't necessarily know exactly what type it is. Of course, this is all speculation, but anything that might be built more specifically towards like military operation ground vehicle transport is really cool to me. And if that's this type of ship, then count me as excited for it. Besides that, though, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. How do you feel about the Starlancer TAC? Personally, I'm pretty hyped for it. How do you feel about these new leak ships? Is there one that you're most excited for? And do you think any of them are going to miss Invictus and maybe be released after the event? Regardless, again, I would love to hear your thoughts about any of that down below. Besides that, 4.1.1 should be releasing to the PTU within the next week or so. It's in Evocati right now over the weekend, so maybe there's some more leaks that are coming out soon, but we should get our hands on it in the pretty near future, and I would love to get you guys some footage of the new missions and just some of the new stuff coming with that patch. Outside of that, again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next video.